Live. Everywhere. On netrootsradio.com. David Waldman. Kagro. In the morning. Now, here's David Waldman.
Hey, good morning, everybody. How you doing? It is Wednesday, November 12th, 2025. Time to start another show. Time to restart Congress, as it happens. The House returns to session today. I guess most members are making their way back. Well, some of the more important members and people who could actually get flights during the still continuing government shutdown were in town yesterday, and I've already seen video coming out of the House Rules Committee, so they're getting prepared for handling the shutdown package, the CR, and full year appropriations for 3 of the appropriations committees, subcommittees anyway. And, of course, it will be the first opportunity under the new Mike Johnson rule for swearing in Adelita Grijalva, elected some 40-some-odd days ago. A good 10% of her term already, to which she was elected anyway, special election, of course. But her term only goes for 400 and something days, a year plus what's left since her September 23rd election, and some 10% plus of that having been frittered away, not only with the government shutdown, but with foot dragging by Republicans. And that, of course, leads us back to the story that has never gone away, the fact that she's been expected to be sworn in this whole time so that she could be the 218th to sign the discharge petition on a resolution, or I guess, I suppose it's actually got some teeth. Maybe it's an actual bill, now that I think about it. But obviously what we're getting at here is the release of the Epstein files, or at least the demand that the DOJ release the Epstein files. Any number of things can go wrong with that, even if the House passes it. But at the minimum, they've made a much bigger and more symbolic story out of the fact that they've been dragging their feet this whole time. And they may yet try to pull some shenanigans. Rumors have been swirling for a long time, and I guess they're picking up steam now, that some of the Republican members, all it would take for now would be one of the Republican members to withdraw their signature from the petition, which is something that you can do. And you could have to engineer things to make sure that it worked if you were the Republicans and looking to do this. Nancy Mace is the one that's targeted, mostly because she's the one that's least mentally stable. She's in the middle of a huge mental breakdown always, but peaking at the moment. She's in the news, freaking out at the airports and yelling at security people and doing the whole "do you know who I am" thing. So she might be vulnerable to this. We read the other day, interestingly, I thought, the exchange from the 1930s about what it means when a member who has signed the petition dies or has resigned. In this case, it was died. And we thought about that in the context of Mikey Sherrill and her preparation to leave for her new duties to which she'd been elected in New Jersey. That won't affect things. But yes, you can withdraw your signature. Now I'm just wondering whether or not in a Democratic House you would see Adelita Grijalva being sworn in very early on. It would have happened a long time ago, and she would have gone to sign it. And then when Nancy Mace went to register her disapproval and withdraw her name, they would say, nope, sorry, the 218th signed, it's all over, just like they did with that other guy. But all right, well, I don't think they're going to work it that way. That's not the way Republicans want it to go. And you know how it is with rules and gavels when they're held. All right, time now to bring Greg Dworkin in for his analysis of all of this. Let's play one of his favorites for the morning. We may be overplaying our hand here, but I know,
but it is one of my favorites. You're absolutely
yes.
right about that.
It is inspirational, I think.
Along with Imperial Martin.
Yes, right. Well, we got that too, you know.
It's not the music; it's the title of the piece.
Right, and that's really. Although the music's pretty good.
The music's pretty darn good.
Yeah,
I think I can't write it.
I would put that down as an okay for composition. One of the greats. All right. Well,
so
good morning.
I wasn't going to start with this, but since you did,
well, you know. Okay.
And we were talking. We sometimes get about 30 seconds to chat before the show goes on, and I get to say, I have a new
Order.
video. Go,
Right.
you didn't expect it, or I don't have a video. Oh, I changed my mind. That sort of thing.
Right.
I don't have a video today, but
Shoot. Okay.
in that chat, we were talking about Nancy Mace and the fact that she's as the weakest link
Yeah.
in humanity. She's going to have all sorts of pressure put on her by Republicans to withdraw her name.
Yes.
However, there is always counter pressure, whether it's Marjorie Taylor Greene saying this is what we promised, or MAGA people saying this is what we promised, or this is what you promised to us.
Yes.
There's breaking news in the New York Times and other outlets. I saw this about 10 minutes ago from other places as well. The Democrats on the House Oversight Committee did one of the few things you get to do when you are in the minority, and that's release information that the whole committee has put together. Whether the chair likes it or not, he can yell at you, he can sanction you, he can throw you off the committee, but the stuff's already out there. So apparently there were 28,000 emails that the House Oversight Committee subpoenaed from the Epstein estate, and unlike Trump, they didn't fight it and they handed it over.
Okay.
And they just made public some of those emails. And here's the headline in the Times. Epstein alleged in emails that Trump knew of his conduct. In a message obtained by Congress, the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein wrote that Donald J. Trump spent hours at his house with one of Mr. Epstein's victims.
Oh, dear.
Now, I'm just saying this because, what's one email going to do given everything else that's happened? The point is the pressure on Nancy Mace. Don't make it sound like it's only in one direction.
That's true. That's right. I mean, the only reason I make it sound in one direction, like it's in
Not
one
you.
direction, is she's crazy.
The royal you.
Oh, okay. Well, not me, but all right. Everybody else. But she's nuts, so she might only be hearing out of one ear or something like that.
But the pressure is enormous, and if you promised your MAGA people that you were going to release it, and then this comes out, how do you undo your signature?
You just do.
Hakeem Jeffries is already, every time he has a microphone or a slot to speak, like on the Sunday shows, will say, the whole problem with this is that the House is shut down so that Mike Johnson can protect pedophiles.
Yeah, well, he's that right.
It happens to be true. It has the advantage of being true, but, the point is you get to say it constantly over and over, the way that adults learn, by repetition.
Yeah.
Again, adults learn by repetition. So, how does Nancy Mace wiggle out of that one? I don't see it.
I don't know. But
if this hadn't come out today, she might have done it. And therefore, I have to think that the Democrats leaked this to the New York Times to make this come out today. That's just what I'm saying.
Yeah. And I mean, we could just have some fun and reverse it in time and say, as soon as Nancy Mace found out that the emails were super incriminating, she changed her mind and decided not to help. Oh, well, that's interesting. Now, she was probably deciding or being prevailed upon to decide that before they let these emails out. But I like the fact that it will come out in reverse.
Well, let's do these 3 paragraphs then. Mr. Trump, remember it's the New York Times, he's always Mr. Trump. They call me Mr. Trump. Mr. Trump has emphatically denied any involvement in or knowledge of Mr. Epstein's sex trafficking operation. He said he and Epstein, the disgraced financier who died by suicide in federal prison in 2019, that long ago, were once friendly but had a falling out. But Democrats on the House Oversight Committee said the emails, which they selected from thousands of pages of documents received by their panel, raised new questions about the relationship between the two men. In one of the messages, Mr. Epstein flatly asserted that Trump knew about the girls, many of whom were later found by investigators to have been underage. In another, Mr. Epstein pondered how to address questions from the news media about their relationship as Mr. Trump was becoming a national political figure. The messages are certain to inflame the debate on Capitol Hill over the Trump administration's handling of the files and top officials' decision to backtrack on a promise to fully release them. That issue, which has split Republicans and alienated some of Mr. Trump's right-wing supporters, had faded to the background as the government shutdown dragged on. No, it didn't, but it's in the New York Times. They're too concerned about, high-class wedding, destination weddings to cover actual news.
Yeah, All right. Well, this is
how could you say that? You're reading about this in the New York Times. Yes, and every other outlet.
Yeah, pretty much. I wonder. I mean, there has to be at least some discussion of it in like Fox News. They color their coverage, obviously, but they do eventually get around to mentioning the fact that this is happening. There are others like the One America News and stuff that might actually just ignore the whole thing. But
yeah. Oh, and by the way, just a reminder.
Yes.
The 3 separate email exchanges released on Wednesday were all from after Mr. Epstein's 2008 plea deal in Florida on state charges of soliciting prostitution, in which federal prosecutors agreed not to pursue charges. They're on the hook for that. They came years after Mr. Trump and Mr. Epstein had a reported falling out in the early 2000s. And again, let's just be clear here. If this happened in 2008, trick question. Who was president in 2008?
Whoa, when?
Because after all, Obama was elected in 2008.
Right. Yeah.
Who was president?
Oh, well, all of 2008.
Was it Obama?
Yes.
No,
yes.
Actually, it wasn't Obama.
No, and he did 9/11 as well.
Yeah.
Didn't he? I thought so. All right. Well, it was on his watch anyway. That is to say, he had a watch at the time that 9/11 happened. He was in the state Senate, but he had a watch there.
So, point being, Republicans, protecting Republicans. And this just brings all that stuff out. Maybe not here, but I'm sure the Miami Herald will have a lot to say about that.
Yeah.
One was addressed to Mr. Epstein's longtime confidant, Ghislaine Maxwell, while 2 were with the author Michael Wolff. And by the way, separate story came out yesterday. Ghislaine Maxwell is getting all sorts of special sweetheart treatment at her overnight camp. And leakers are complaining about the fact I'm sick and tired of having to, do stuff for her. She gets special meals and this and that and everything else. And she's very happy with her treatment here compared to where it was before. Well, duh. And all of this happened after she spoke to the Department of Justice inappropriately, speaking to one of Trump's ex-lawyers, who's now a lawyer for us, in theory.
Supposedly. In
fact, remains one of Trump's lawyers. So again, all of this stuff is back in the news. They can't run from it. The more they run from it, the more they explain, you're losing, that kind of thing. And that's what's going on now.
All right. Good. Let's get to the losing. When does that happen? Hurry up.
In an email from January 2019, Mr. Epstein wrote to Mr. Wolff of Mr. Trump. Of course he knew about the girls.
He said as much, actually.
He asked Ghislaine to stop.
Okay.
Making Ghislaine Maxwell a wonderful source of all I think is innocent.
Right.
Okay.
Stop saying that.
House Democrats cited an unnamed whistleblower said this week that Ms. Maxwell was preparing to formally ask Mr. Trump to commute her federal prison sentence. Well, that, again, makes that a little bit more difficult, not impossible. Names were redacted, which is Johnson's excuse for not releasing everything. So this shows that you can release this stuff with redacted names. Johnson claims that he's doing it because the victims don't want this stuff out there. The victims are saying, you're full of crap. We want this out there. Mr. Epstein emailed Ms. Maxwell in 2011 calling Mr. Trump the dog that didn't bark. He was a reality television star and tabloid celebrity, years away from being president. And Mr. Trump last summer said that Mr. Epstein had hired away spa attendants at Mar-a-Lago. You covered that extensively. And he believed one of the women was Virginia Giffrey, who was Miss Maxwell, was supposedly recruited her at Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Right. I mean, she said as much.
Right.
Everybody
so all of this is in the news.
Stuff.
Again, what's so important about the New York Times? Nobody pays attention to their editorials. Why should they pay attention to the front page news? The answer is elites do. And since elites read the paper and then look up to see who their friends are that got married, that they didn't get invited to the destination wedding, they talk about it. So you're going to hear about it.
Yeah. All right. I'm ready to hear about it.
So that's actually the main story, which is tied into what the media will call the main story. The government is reopening and the House is in session. But what it really means is the Epstein files are on the table.
Yes.
That's the story.
That comes next. Anyway, yeah. I'm not going to interrupt. Oh, I was just going to say, for whatever reason, the Grijalva swearing in is slated for later in the afternoon, about 4 p.m., and I don't know whether that has anything to do with anything in terms of what Nancy Mace may or may not be up to. But that's when they're thinking of doing it. I guess they could have convened earlier, but I don't know. I don't think they get any advantage out of waiting until 4, and I don't think that there's going to be any more delay. You know, there's rumors were swirling. Well, Johnson will just do something else and keep her. It's just not worth it to him anymore to keep her out at this point. And
it probably wasn't, because he's been smeared with this. But at the same time, it does give him a few more hours to see if they can strong arm Mace. Except with these stories coming out, I don't know. I don't see how.
Yeah, well, that's how they'll spend their next couple of hours. Maybe they'll move the swearing in up a little bit, and in order to just screw up her plans. Like if the catering platter for her office party doesn't arrive until 4:30 after the planned swearing in, and they swear her in at noon, and then her guests will be hungry. So who knows?
Right.
I'm just gonna needle her that way.
So let's do a couple other things before we get to the actual showdown and all the stuff that's left after that. Mm-hmm. Tons of articles now.
Every day.
Basically, they have a very similar theme. You thought the Democrats lost. They actually won.
Oh.
And, healthcare is in the news. It's going to be in the news prominently. We'll talk about that, but I want to do a couple of things first. Like, for example, again, you have to set the background to this. Rumors about Nancy Mace being pressured to pull off the discharge petition have to be put in the context of new relevant emails released by the Democrats on Jeffrey Epstein, which as I said, I don't think is a coincidence. I think they heard the rumors, and so they released some of the stuff now.
Sure. Okay. Why not?
But that's the context. The context of looking at whether or not the Democrats win or lose the shutdown. Political polling numbers on Twitter that I count. Since it's Wednesday, YouGov releases their numbers on Wednesdays. Registered voters from November 10th, so it's just 2 days ago. Okay. Did they already announce that they were going to reopen? I don't know. Maybe time blends together. What is time? But it's a generic ballot.
Circle. Yeah.
And whereas the last poll had Democrats up by 3, after all of this stuff with the showdown and the shutdown and this and that and who's to blame and this, that, and everything else, on November 10th, Democrats 46, Republicans 39. So that's 7. They gained 4 points over the last week.
Okay. Sure, why not?
All right. And again, a reminder, the very same polls that lowballed Democrats in last Tuesday's election are lowballing the generic ballot for the same reason.
I can't believe it.
What's a registered voter? Well, let's look at 2024 and pick our registered voter. Well, it's not 2024. How do we know? Last Tuesday.
Yes.
I mean, technically it's not 2024 because it's 2025. But what I'm saying is, if you think your pick of the electorate was correct to do it based on 2024, you're Atlas Intel saying Mikey Sherrill's going to win in New Jersey by 1.
Yeah.
And that's not what happened. She won by 14.
Yes. Well, that's 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 on, on and on. But you can break it down.
That's what we call a Liberace series.
Sure. Why not? He's decorating the Oval Office right now. Liberace is.
Yeah, not enough rhinestones. That's what I think. We need more of that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there's
lack
that.
twinkle.
And then this is Joe Lawrence writing in the Bulwark. Elise Stefanik's bad bet on MAGA politics. For a promise of power, she has let herself be yanked around. Now she's launched a Trumpian campaign for governor of New York, completely botched the rollout. I can't remember whether we talked about this or not.
I don't know. I don't remember the
website on the day that she launched.
Yeah.
Was a generic website basically copied from a local law firm.
Oh. Huh. Did we?
Right? It said, Elise Stefanik, a program for the future. I'm paraphrasing here because I can't remember the exact phrasing. And then when you look at the subheadings, it says wills, legal trusts, that sort of thing.
Weird. I wonder what.
And then when you get to the policy part directly underneath, you know what it says?
No.
Lorem ipsum.
Oh, yeah. That's my favorite policy, though.
which,
The lorem
is, I forget,
ipsum.
Cicero, Cato, one of those guys.
I think it's just
Latin,
garbage.
and people use it as a filler before they put in stuff. They never addressed that. That
Yeah.
was the day of her rollout, and Kathy Hochul was all over
Nice.
this and said, this incompetent fool can't even do a website.
Yeah, or hire someone who could. But yeah, okay. Either way, you're not supposed to do that.
Right. But again,
Lorem
the
ipsum.
reason I mention that is that there was a recent poll of the governorship race, which I think I mentioned on Monday, and if I didn't, I meant to, so it's the same thing.
Right, we had it in mind anyway. We knew
exactly.
about it.
Showing Hochul just crushing her.
Well, all right.
Absolutely crushing her.
Well, she's very dumb.
So
and
again, this is the background to all of this. So you can gnash your teeth and say we played a bad hand poorly, and you're probably right, and we should have gotten more from it, and we probably should have.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I guess like every story fades, and this one will too. And frustration with Democrats that predated this will linger on. It might turn up the dial by a notch, possibly, but well, all right. That doesn't mean it wasn't.
I found the poll, by the way.
Oh, okay. Doesn't mean it wasn't bad, or that you shouldn't have been angry about it. That was all valid.
Yep.
But okay.
It's a Siena poll, so it's a good one. Hochul 52, Stefanik 27. That's the background that she's launching.
Are we sure? Because the Hochul 52, Stefanik lorem ipsum.
Lorem ipsum 27. Yeah. Lorem has fired their campaign manager.
That'd be a good name for somebody. A good fake name to sign into a hotel is Lauren Ipsum or something.
Right.
See who gets it.
They fired Lorem ipsum, and they hired Carthage delende est. You
gotta use it. And I think, by the way, Lorem ipsum is actually fake Latin too. I don't know if it's really actually I'm not a Latin speaker, but in the graphic design business, people who work in that and use that as placeholder text all the time said, yeah, it's just gobbledygook and it's not even Latin. So I don't know. All right, they should use Sanskrit. Just to change things.
Where is it from? It's a whole paragraph there.
Yeah.
And it's from its medieval origins to the digital era. Learn everything there is to know about the ubiquitous Lorem ipsum passage.
Okay.
So it's Cicero.
Is it?
It is Cicero.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. De finibus bonorum et malorum.
Okay. It certainly looks Latin-y. I just don't know.
Right. It's from his famous prescription that he gave to his doctor.
Okay. And so that may in fact be garbage. Who knows?
Yeah.
It's Latin for vaccines are dangerous and don't give them to your kids. So don't listen at all, even if you can speak Latin.
Exactly.
Bad advice.
So, again, context is everything. So when you hear, for example, Lee Stefanik say anything.
Lorem ipsum, for instance.
Keep in mind.
She just say that.
She's running for governor. And she's trailing badly, and she'll say anything. And that was always true, but now it's always true in context.
Right. There you go. Also, if you ask her what her name is, she'll say her name is state your name.
Right. That's not your name. State your actual name. Right. Okay. Did
you
like what I said? If you didn't, it's Mike Lawler.
The end. All right. Well,
her rival for the Republican nomination.
Yeah.
Whose decision
worse?
Not to run at the moment is looking better and better.
Yeah. All right. Well, not that it will do them any good.
Anyway, let's dive into some of these, what happened with this shutdown, showdown thingy. This one is from The Atlantic, Russell Berman and Jonathan Lamar. Why the Democrats finally folded. This is how government shutdowns always end. For the past 30 years, the party that's forced federal agencies to close their doors in a funding fight has never actually achieved policy outcome it was demanding. Republicans did not successfully pressure then-President Barack Obama to defund his signature healthcare law. President Donald Trump, during his first term, failed to persuade Senate Democrats to authorize his border wall. And over the past 2 weeks, a pivotal faction of Democrats abandoned their hope, that is to say, the people who voted yes, let's reopen the government, their hope that Republicans would agree to extend insurance subsidies under the Affordable Care Act anytime soon. So late last night, they provided the key votes, this must have been written yesterday, to begin the process of reopening the government after what had become the longest shutdown in U.S. history. Final votes coming.
Record-breaking.
Came.
Yes.
I came to the conclusion they were not going to cave on that red line, said Senator Tim Kaine, the senator from Northern Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
One of 5 Democrats who flipped his vote yesterday after previously backing the shutdown. He acknowledged many of his colleagues disagree, but when he would press them on whether they believe that Republicans might come around, they couldn't say. There was no evidence to suggest they would. He's probably right about that.
Yes, very likely.
More in here about how it infuriated others in the caucus. But even though polling had swung in the Democrats' favor, and I just gave you an example from the YouGov generic ballot, it's not enough to move the president or GOP leaders in Congress, and that's really the problem.
Yeah.
I understand that not all my Democratic colleagues are satisfied with this agreement, but waiting another week wouldn't deliver a better outcome, said Jean Shaheen of New Hampshire, whose daughter said this is a terrible decision.
Yes. Okay.
She's either running or is an elected official in her own right. I don't remember what, but she wasn't happy with Mom's vote.
Oh,
next.
See. Well, awkward Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Josh Barro will start now and finish after the break.
That's all.
Chuck Schumer is a convenient punching bag. He's not the real problem.
Oh.
Mr. Schumer had little choice but to lead his party into a shutdown. Democratic officials, activists, commentators in the base were insistent, but they also expected the shutdown to lead to some sort of significant public policy win for Democrats. A few problems with this, one of which that there was no agreement among Democrats about what policy. And by the way, that never works.
Generally, yeah.
So I mentioned to you in the warm-up to the show when we were chatting about what we're going to talk about, my mantra here is that you elect Congress, then you pass policy. Okay. Not the other way around. It doesn't work the other way around. When they have more votes than you do, you lose.
Yes. And that is more or less the way it's supposed to go. And I think we're usually okay.
I don't want a feel-good loss where I stuck to my guns in the end and still got outvoted.
You don't?
When people are getting hurt. That's what the Democrats said, and that's how come they voted the way they did.
All right. Well, we have more time to discuss that on the other side. If there's more to add to that, we've been talking about feels for a while, I think.
Hi everybody, this is Scott Anderson, your summary guy. Were you looking forward to an egalitarian democracy free of bigotry, misogyny, racism, and greed, where people of different appearances, belief, and heritage had a right to live without fear, and everyone could expect a basic level of health, stability, and safety throughout their life? Well, too bad. The plain fact is that we're heading in the wrong direction. And where we once had a voice in such things, increasingly we don't. Not exactly the kind of news I wanted to share, but there it is. However, if you're looking to join people who understand today's issues and can intelligently address the reality of today from your point of view, you can join us at Kagro in the morning. As you know, there aren't many of us out there, at least compared to them. We need to stick together, and by that I mean send us money. That is contributions to patreon.com, secure, reoccurring contributions. Those contributions keep this show in the air and us together. We've been through a lot together. The temporary loss of the presidency, we hope. The temporary loss of the House, the Senate, the Supreme Court, we hope. Face it, we are pretty much all that we have left. Remember, we couldn't do it without you, and you shouldn't do it without us. We're in this together, so thanks.
All right, welcome back now to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. We continue on with our discussion of the shutdown, which is shutting down, I guess. And I guess is the opposite of that a shut up by any chance? Because we could leave. I don't know.
It's not the opposite. It's corollary.
Okay, yes. The reopening of the government, which hasn't happened yet. We are still in day 43, I think, of the shutdown, and they won't fix it today. They may set themselves up to have it fixed and signed, and I guess it's possible for them to work around the rules in a way that gets a bill to the president to scribble on later today. But
rules. That's interesting. So let me ask you a question, Mr. Rules expert.
That is against the rules. Please leave. Yes.
So with the discharge petition, on the one hand, what do you have to do to make it active? When's the timing? And on the other hand, if Grijalva is signed in today and signs, what's the mechanism for removing your name from the petition? Can you remove your name from the petition if the House is not in session? Can you submit the discharge petition if the House is not in session.
I think you might be. Well, I don't know. I'm not certain. Discharge petition is such an odd duck. It never works. So you stop reading the rules on it every once in a while.
Right.
Right. But
what I'm asking is, what if the rule for Grijalva being sworn in and then handing in the discharge petition is actually faster than the rule for Nancy Mace applying to get her name off because Congress is closed?
Yeah, I think she could probably get her name. Well, they would engineer it such that if she agreed to do that and it was in their interest to do so, they would just engineer the event such that they would.
Yeah, I mean, if it's interest to do that, then they could deem that today is still Monday.
Yes, but I don't think it takes much to remove your name. It probably requires notice to the clerk, who doesn't leave during shutdowns or recesses. The clerk is always there to receive communications from the president, etc. And would, I think, log communication with a member's office saying that they intended to remove their name. There's also a process by which that information is submitted to the record on the floor. But I think all you have to do is indicate to the clerk, probably have to sign some papers. So I don't think even a recess would stand in the way of her doing that. I guess how
about the other side? What about actually submitting the petition to make it active?
Making it work. Well, I haven't been actively reading about it, but I've been seeing other people reading and writing about it. It takes a number of days. It's been a long time since a discharge petition worked, and it may never. I don't think it really have actually worked, but I think they got one through not that long ago and found other ways to defuse it. But as I recall, the success of the discharge petition, once having been officially acknowledged and announced, and there's no way to actually delay that part, but the delay the action on what to do about it, I think the presiding officer, the speaker or designee, has a certain number of days between notice that the 218th signature has been secured and actually scheduling floor time with it. And I think something like 7 days have to pass, after which time the sponsor of the discharge petition or designee there can set a schedule. Within 2 days after the 7 days pass, they have to have floor action on the bill. So it can be delayed another week.
But that means that
so.
It can be delayed, but that means the process has started.
Yes.
That to a layperson, that means a petition has been accepted and they're starting to act on it.
And I guess it would be locked at that point. And at that point, I don't think you could remove your name from it. But I don't know.
That's where I'm going with this.
Yeah. So I suppose, if you start the 7-day clock, can you remove your name then? I don't know. It's never happened. So.
Only if somebody in 1934 dies.
Yeah, right. Well, we'll look it up, and the answer, I'm sure, if you don't want to wait for it, is available to you in a CRS report that you can look up online. But just Google CRS in discharge petitions, and then ignore the AI answer, and then go find an actual document and read it. But maybe we can rig that up to happen over one of the breaks, so that we have it either later today or tomorrow. As things happen.
I'm just saying, there's a tremendous amount of pressure on Mike Johnson to get this done, and Nancy Mason. So again, pulling out is certainly doable because he's the speaker, and so you can. And then you figure out how later, because that's how the Supreme Court does it, and that's how Mike Johnson does it.
Yep.
But at the same time, it's not easy because this is all in public and everybody knows what you're doing.
Yeah. So everyone will be watching.
Yep.
And we'll watch.
So the New York Times had this really fascinating piece, which echoes some of the stuff I said on Monday, which is why it's so fascinating, of course. But I said it because it's true. What if Democrats' big shutdown loss turns out to be a win? That's the headline. Under news analysis. Despite considerable hand-wringing in the party about caving to Republicans, which they did, some Democrats see potential upsides in the outcome. Even some of the Democrats most outraged by the outcome are not so certain their party's aborted fight was all for naught. They assert that in hammering away at the extension of healthcare subsidies that are slated to expire at the end of next month, they managed to thrust Mr. Trump and Republicans onto the defense of elevating a political issue that has long been a major weakness for them. Mm-hmm. And their companion article makes the point, again, a news analysis article, as shutdown nears end, Trump still confronts soaring health costs. The central issue of the government closure remains unresolved, leaving Republicans under political pressure ahead of the midterms. And that pressure is only going to ramp up because people are going to, there's no way you could say everybody in the country is really good about putting their taxes in early, and the day that you're supposed to sign up to get your, health care insurance assured for the next year, if it's available Monday at 9, I'm on the site 9:01 wanting to know how come I'm not signed up yet. No, that's not how it works. People leave for the last minute if they get around to it. And so you're going to have a steady stream, an increasingly large steady stream of people only now finding out that, I never really pay attention to the news, but my health care premium has just doubled or tripled.
Yes. I don't know how you will have missed that news at this time, but if you're never paying attention to news, if all you know about is what's going on in sports betting, you'll only see it when your premium goes up.
Right. Now, the Epstein stuff breaks through that for what we like to call low information voters, which is to say voters who actively don't want to know about this stuff, which is how you can not know. But that breaks through. So will this. So the pressure is enormous. The burden is now on Mr. Trump and Republicans to bring down costs of risk peril in those elections after a splinter group of Democrats agreed to end the shutdown by dropping their party's demand to extend certain health insurance subsidies. Despite promises to offer an alternative to Obamacare, Mr. Trump has nothing to show on the issue beyond a vague plan to send money directly to policyholders.
Yes. Everybody is going to get big bucks. Sure.
Yeah. When?
2 weeks.
Well, I'm paying for it out of the tariff. Yeah, well, you can't because the tariffs are about to be declared illegal.
There's that, and you didn't collect anywhere near enough money to cover those checks anyway.
And this article goes on to point out that one of the most silent of voices.
Most silent of voices.
One of the silentest of voices on the whole healthcare thing?
Yeah.
R.F. Kennedy Jr., who knows nothing about nothing.
Yeah, that is true.
Who's a complete shithead who's completely unqualified to be in the position he's in. He's got nothing to say. So his brainworm is at least smart enough to tell him not to open his mouth.
If that's what's happening. Yeah. You don't want him in charge of anything, much less, revamping the healthcare delivery system in the country.
Right.
Nor do you want the guy who doesn't
the
know
title
what
of my
baguettes
pundit
are.
roundup today is GOP's basically lying.
Okay.
Trump is lying. Trump always lies. Trump lies about everything. We ran out of numbers.
Oh. We went to Lorem Ipsum.
That's the headline.
Okay.
Lorem Ipsum. Yeah. It's bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they should not do it. The thing that they're thinking of. By the way, I opened up a page and I got distracted. I opened up the page about discharge petition. It's everything. It's everything you'd want in an answer. It's so dumb.
Yeah.
You won't believe it. But what ends up happening, this is great. I'll just read you something, a paragraph or two from Basic Discharge Procedure in the CRS report. This is an old CRS report, 2005. I don't think the rules have changed, though some practice has been applied in between then and now. So there could be some updates to basic accepted practice. But so members may add or remove their names until the petition has 218 signatures. So it would be interesting. That I think that's meant to mean that if they got Grijalva's signature before Mace removed hers, that would lock it and you can't take your name off at that point. I'm not positive. And they could just rule, actually, we think you can, and that's a new rule. That can happen too. Members may add or remove their names until the petition has 218 signatures when the list is frozen and printed in the record. Now, ready for this one? Yeah, go on. Do you have a question?
Yeah, I don't think you can just say, we'll just decide it's a new rule, because that would put all of the Republican pedophile protectors on record.
Yes, that's true.
And that's just not going to happen.
You can't change the rules without putting everyone on record. That's true. When I say change the rules, is if you
could technically change the rules, but politically that's not going to happen.
Right. Yeah. You'd have a conference-wide agreement to go on record and vote when somebody says, hey, that's not the rule. The rule is the discharge petition is frozen, and the chair says, it is not, and then someone else says, it is, and I appeal the ruling of the chair, then you got to have, then it would still be a vote to table the motion to appeal the ruling or whatever, but or table the appeal, but it would still be a record in which all the Republicans would have to come in and vote for changing the rules on the fly to protect Jeffrey Epstein. So,
yeah, that makes total sense. And
Right.
let me just put this a different way.
Okay.
How many votes are there at the current time to release the Epstein files in the House? And the answer is 217, soon to be 218.
Yes.
How many votes will there be to release the Epstein files in the House? North of 300.
Yeah, well, once it goes, yeah. Right. Everybody wants to get out of the way of this one. So,
Those same people are going to be on record
rules.
as saying, I'm going to block this?
Yes.
I don't think so.
No.
That's my point.
Right. Okay. So, I mean, I only throw it out there because weird things happen, and then people say, you said it froze it. I did, and that was the rule. They changed it right in the middle of everything. Sometimes they do that. Not this time. I doubt it, but that's not the stupid part. That's the part that makes sense. 218 froze. We all understand that now. I mean, it's weird that they need 218, but okay. So then, watch this one. Ready? All right. The discharge motion may then be offered on the floor. So then you have to make a motion and say, I got this discharge petition. I've succeeded. I now move that the House discharge from any committee's consideration the following bill, the one that was in the petition, right? So the discharge motion may then be offered on the floor, but when can you offer it? You ready for this one? Only on the second or fourth Monday that falls at least 7 legislative days, not calendar days, legislative days, after the petition is filled, not filed, but filled. So after the 218th signature comes in, a clock starts 7 days, 7 legislative days, which they can mess around with by recessing rather than adjourning at the end of the day. It doesn't become a new legislative day yet. All right, 7 legislative days after the petition is filled, but it has to happen on a Monday, and not any Monday, the second or fourth Monday afterwards. Like, okay, now what is even the second or fourth Monday of the month, or the second Monday following the filling of the petitions? I don't know. I got to read this more carefully.
Yeah, well, you got to read all the way down to the bottom in the fine print where it says, and only if the Jets win. Right,
exactly. And lorem ipsum, by the way. What? That doesn't even make any sense. I don't know what to do. So
they beat the Jets 31-27.
Yeah. Anything could happen at this point. So, okay, so it's got to be the second or fourth Monday that falls at least 7 legislative days after the petition is filled. Now, it does say that sometimes the day is altered by unanimous consent. That one, I don't know if they'll get any unanimous consent on this one. The motion may not be offered during the last 6 days of a session, which, I mean, really, if you really wanted to screw around with things.
The end of session.
Yeah, either that or it's coming soon. I mean, the end of the session will be at the end of December / beginning of January as we move over into the second session of the current Congress.
They just prove that you don't have to be in session at all.
Right.
They don't do anything.
That's true. If before the motion is offered, the committee reports the measure with or without amendment, the discharge...
New rule, the session ends 5 days after that petition hits the floor.
You ready for that one? Right. So I don't know where they actually sent that legislation and where they're trying to discharge it from. But another sneaky thing you could do is, ordinarily when what was it, Massey did this thing, drop it in the hopper, it gets referred to committee, the committee sits on it, so you do a discharge petition. And if at the last moment the committee that was supposed to consider it sees a successful discharge petition coming down the pike and says, fine, we'll consider it, but we're going to report it out with 1,800 amendments that change the nature of the legislation entirely, that's a trick you can pull too.
They can do all of those things, and you may as well call it the let's lose 100 seats in the next election act.
I would like to do that. I would like to see them try that and ruin it for everybody. The big party has ruined everybody. But, then also lose 100 seats, and we have a second New Deal. Hooray.
Now, again, remember, just step back, look at the big picture.
All right.
When this passes in the House, even after all the machinations,
they're better off just doing it. But go on.
It's a bill. It has to go over to the Senate.
Right. Yeah.
Right. The Senate will do whatever it does, may or may not pass. I don't know. Point being, everybody's on record.
Yes.
Should the Senate pass it, it goes to Trump, who will veto it. Again, the point is everybody's on record. This is an everybody's on record bill. This isn't the thing that's going to release those files. Those files are not going to be released by Trump and the Republicans because presumably they're devastating. Otherwise, they would have released it and all this stuff wouldn't have been happening.
Yeah.
So that's the big picture.
Yeah. You know what would be funny, though? It would be great if they pass the thing, they send it over to the Senate, and then somebody blocks it in the Senate, and then somebody else says, I just have this message on my phone from the president to eliminate the filibuster, so I guess I will. Oh, no. We've just passed the EPSI. Okay, then he would veto it or whatever.
Right. Yeah. I want to, see Mike Johnson sitting on the steps of the Capitol singing, I'm just a bill.
Yeah. Get him out there. Get a little ribbon. Put around him. It's going to be an exciting time for the parliamentarians, but or it could be. But basically nobody wants to touch the thing, and there are so many places that the thing can just go elsewhere to die, up to and including. All right, I won't even veto it. We'll release the files, quote unquote. Release, quote unquote, the files. Here's some so 10,000 pages of lorem ipsum later. These aren't the files. Oh.
Meanwhile, Democrats will be releasing more and more of those emails.
Yeah, I mean that's eventually the way. But then they can at least point to that and say it was partisan. Yeah, well, you're a pedophile, and
you only put the
Epstein
stuff in there. You didn't put the Trump stuff. Okay, you have a point. Release the Trump stuff.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, they'll mess around with this for a long time. We're a long way from seeing the whole world reject Trump and Trumpism and kick him out of office as a result of his encounters with the pedophile here. But it'll be a rough couple of weeks, months, whatever it takes, and that's good. I don't mind that.
Right. So this is I'm going to read the actual email.
All right.
From Jeffrey Epstein, whose email was JEE.
J.E. Epstein. What's his
middle initial? Jeffrey Epstein. JEEvacation@gmail.com.
Vacation. All right.
Right.
It's a different email.
To GMax. This is to Gillen Maxwell.
Yeah.
I want you to realize that the dog that hasn't barked is Trump. The victim spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned. Trump police chief, etc. Okay. I'm 75% there.
I wish I knew what the hell he was talking about. I get the part about Trump spending hours with, and he doesn't say the victim. That's the redaction of the name. It just notes he's talking about a victim. So he said he spent hours at my house with, whatever. State your name, essentially.
Yeah. State your name. Spent hours at my house with him. He's never once been. It was
Elise Stefanik. I can't believe it. She was only 19 at the time, which makes it, at least reasonably close to legal. But anyway, that's. I don't know what he's talking about, like police chief. I'd love to know. People probably have a good guess about that. I think the dog that hasn't barked. That he's.
Right.
He's aware that Trump knows, but Trump hasn't said anything to authorities so far.
SV Date points out that people who think this new Epstein stuff's going to finally turn Trump's cult against them are more likely to see the cult come around to the view. Child rape isn't that bad.
Yeah, it was good enough for... Who was it good enough for?
Oh, and by the way, all of these emails were released months ago.
Okay.
In a gigantic file, he said.
Yeah, all right. That may be true, too.
But
that's why
it doesn't matter. It's current political pressure. I'm not saying it in terms of, this is the final straw that's going to do X, Y, or Z. And what I'm saying is the political pressure and having everybody talk about it let's just say isn't good for Republicans.
Right. I mean, I'll take that. It's not going to turn anybody against him. The cult is all paying membership fees to his pervert sex club right now. So they're not going to be surprised or put off by this. They're out having dinner parties at the scene of the crime. So, probably not going to change their minds. I mean, that is what's happening, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, so we got all of that stuff happening. There's other news that's sort of floating around.
Whatever.
We can mention it, but
Sure. War, murders, whatever you want.
uh, I keep reading this variation of the Politico story. Virginia Republicans turn on each other after crushing losses, just because I enjoy it so much.
Sure, let's do that, because you sent one a couple of days ago and we never got
to it. But it was so good that
you sent it again.
Yeah. Now the question is, where is it? Because
all right.
it just looks like Politico just pulled it from their pages.
Oh, is that right? There was the gist of the one that you sent that I didn't get a chance to read was essentially Glenn Youngkin, who was never a thing, is now over.
Yeah. Since I took an excerpt and put it in the pundit roundup, I can at least tell you that.
Oh, okay, good.
They should have seen this coming, said Wood, county Republican. Basically, they blame everybody but President Trump. They just smoked us. I mean, gosh, they wiped us off the maps. Tim Anderson, a Republican who lost the House of Delegate race in the battleground Virginia Beach area, which, by the way, Virginia Beach, of course, has a naval base
and a beach,
right? And a beach. But you'd think it was a Republican area. But I think that
yeah. I mean,
Spanberger won that area.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of overlaps with a very heavily black Tidewater district vote. So yeah, and also as it turns out, a lot of people in the Navy, are sensible people and say don't want to be sent into useless wars.
Anderson, who was elected to the House in 2021, said Earl Sears, Winsome, Loosum, Earl Sears, lack of a motivational message that excited voters to get off the couch.
Yeah.
Now, leave J.D. Vance out of this, please. Doomed Republicans running at every level who were already facing political headwinds caused by Doge-inflicted federal job losses, along with the government shutdown. It's a warning sign for Republicans across the nation ahead of the 2026 races, especially without Trump atop the ballot. You see, you're not allowed to make any headway in making sense for national Democrats from New York City, but it's perfectly okay to do it for Virginia because reasons. The GOP lost decisively Tuesday in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, California, and Georgia, including in some reliably red areas, a shellacking that signals problems for the party as Democrats turn out in droves against Trump and his policies. Again, that's the background for the shutdown. Democrats are simultaneously trying to move past their own intra-party turmoil, Dems in disarray, but we're used to it, so it doesn't bother us, and continue hammering America's affordability problem, which everybody's doing, including Trump. Trump claims he's going to do a lie like a mattress tour and tell everybody how affordability is under control because he says so. It worked really well for Biden. I'm sure it'll work just as well for Trump. But the thing that's missing from this whole Republicans in disarray and blaming each other and pointing fingers, nobody blames Trump. They're afraid to.
Yeah. Well, he's still around.
Yeah.
They have a lamer
lame duck though.
But they have an even lamer one to blame in Virginia, which is not even Winsome Earl Sears at this point, although, it's useless to blame her. But yeah, Glenn Youngkin. I found the article that you had sent to me a couple of days ago, which was from the unreliable UK Daily Mail, but nonetheless had a very fun headline. This is the one that you sent. Rising Republicans' future now in tatters as he's blamed for electoral bloodbath.
Oh, that would be Glenn Youngkin.
Yeah. I could share that one later on. But that I did find that one. That one was out there. And you sent me something in the back channel about Fluvanna County, and I think we did get a chance to discuss Fluvanna on the air. That being
so many of those mid counties there, the middle of the state where the volume of voting was up the highest.
Mm-hmm.
Just fascinating.
Yeah.
And VoteHub should be finishing counting. Oh, they count slow, but they have visuals of what all the different counties look like.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you mean the numbers from each of the counties?
Yeah.
Or not the shape, which, though interesting, wouldn't tell you.
Yeah, but it takes them a while because you get provisionals and you get late mail and early mail and middle mail, all that sort of stuff. So right now, as it stands, as of this minute, Abigail Spanberger has gotten 57.4% of the vote, and Winsome Earl Sears has gotten 42.4% of the vote, making it exactly a 15-point win.
Okay. Excellent.
Right.
Yes.
Prince William County, very populous county, part of Northern Virginia. 2024, Harris won by 7%, and that's the provisionals that came in late last night. Harris wins by 7% late provisional. Spanberger wins them by 60%. The final margins, Harris won Prince William County by 17.9. Spanberger wins it by 34.
Wow.
Hashmi, the lieutenant governor who Glenn Youngkin told to go home, get out of state, go away, she won by 31. And remember, Harris won this county by 17.9.
Yeah.
Jay Jones won it by 26.2.
People were excited by Jay Jones.
Jay Jones did well despite everything because people said, look, I don't necessarily like him.
Yeah.
I ain't voting for a Republican.
Right. If you want to put him in and then impeach him and replace him later at the discretion of the new Democratic governor, sure, go for it. But it won't be Jason Miyares. Thank you. Okay. Yeah. And I mean, I think that's basically what was happening. I declared my intention to do that right in the height of things as I'm voting early. I understand, don't like the situation. No chance I am handing this office to a Republican, period, end of sentence. We can deal with this guy later if it turns out to really have any there. But it might not even have that. I don't know. We'll see. But in the meantime, it doesn't call for handing things over to a Republican. Nothing does. Under no circumstances do you have to hand it to them, as they say online. So, okay, I didn't. All right, well, we're at this point just about out of time. The music hasn't started yet, but it will shortly. But we have Thursday yet to go, so that's good.
Yeah, the Republicans aren't quite out of time. The music hasn't started for them yet, but the writing's on the wall. And what other, bromides can we mash together here?
I don't know.
But, they're hurting.
Well, good.
And so, shutdown short. That was last week. Now, Republicans are hurting. They did hurt at the ballot box. We just went over why and how. And they're going to be hurting as time goes on. And the pressure is going to be enormous. And I just don't see them getting so-called wins they think they're going to get.
Right. Especially now as the Supreme Court has intervened once again to help Trump keep Snap turned off even as they turn the government lights back on, which isn't going to help them politically either.
But this is the absolute definition of a moot point.
All right, welcome back now to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. I did want to, I'll share a little bit at least of the terribly unreliable UK Daily Mail article, just because I don't want to pass up the opportunity to drag Glenn Youngkin's shattered political future through the mud a little further. You have to be careful in the Jay Jones situation of saying something like dragging Glenn Youngkin's political, not literal, metaphorical corpse through the mud. But since we're not saying that, then there's no problem, right? Rising Republicans' future now in tatters as he's blamed for electoral bloodbath. Quite honestly, the idea that Glenn Youngkin was going to ride the Virginia governorship to the presidency is ridiculous. I don't know how long we've been flirting with this stupid idea. In Virginia, I guess it's their particular conceit since we have the one-term only limit for governor. But the usual path out of that is into the Senate. And when there are relatively popular incumbent senators sitting in the way, they start to say, well, obviously the only path out of that now is the presidency. But one term is never enough to have proven yourself or established enough of a national track record to really make that jump. It's actually quite stupid. And I wonder, has it been like 200 plus years since somebody who was a governor of Virginia actually made an honest contention for the White House, or has it ever happened? I don't know. There was, of course, a time around the period of the founding when Virginians were dominant in races for the presidency, but I don't know that they did it from the governor's seat. I don't think they did. So I don't know. Anyway, it's been a pipe dream, at least of Republicans, for a long, long time. I don't know when was the last time that a Democratic governor of Virginia had people talking about presidential ambitions, unless you're talking about people who had been governor as Democrats and then moved into the Senate and then evidenced presidential ambitions. Anyway, I don't know. We may have it wrong in this one, but it just strikes me as in the last couple decades, let's say, I haven't seen anybody as a Democratic or Republican governor of Virginia, sitting governor of Virginia, make strong inroads in even early primary sweepstakes. Probably, I'm going to say not since like Doug Wilder has anybody even run in the, Iowa primaries or something in the early going as a governor of Virginia. I don't know. And it may have been after his term had ended anyway. So at any rate, the Daily Mail, which is unreliable and you should never listen to them, you are now going to listen to Victoria Churchill, the U.S. political reporter. How appropriate that she should be a U.S. political reporter for the UK's Daily Mail and be a Churchill, right? The dramatic Republican drubbing in Virginia, I'm reading it for language like this, on Tuesday night, it wasn't this past Tuesday night, but an earlier one, as you know, is now imperiling the once bright future prospects of Governor Glenn Youngkin, is how I'm going to refer to him from now on. Apparently, I had no plans to do this, but it just happened. By the way, don't cry for Glenn Youngkin. He can just go back to being a multimillionaire / almost billionaire hedge fund guy. And that's nice. I'd do it, I guess, if I had to. 4 years ago, in 2021, Youngkin was a national Republican hero after he led the GOP to control all 3 elected statewide offices, as well as gains in the Virginia House of Delegates. By the way, I don't think they're going to be discussing it in here, but what happened instead was boring white guy with the vest was left to be boring white guy with the vest, and the consultants who claimed to be the power behind the throne went on to national prominence. The Chris Rufos of the world, who organized his campaign around the Yargle Bargle parents, something school bathrooms campaign. The guy who bought the campaign in a box from them stayed in the box. The people who designed the box used the campaign victory as a launching pad to make themselves famous and powerful, and they left the guy with the vest behind. I just find that interesting, and it's kind of a weird dynamic, and I don't know whether I would say it happens all the time or whether it's just as a unicorn. I'm not sure. I have to think about that. Anyway, back to the article. Not yesterday, but that Tuesday, the day after that Tuesday they were talking about a second ago, Democrats flipped control of all of the state's executive offices and also flipped 13 seats in the House of Delegates, giving them control of 64% of the chamber come January. That sounds like a supermajority to me. I don't know what the veto rules are, but it's damn close. 64% might be enough. I don't know, but they may do a 2/3 thing, in which case you'll need 66%, and you might still yet have to persuade a Republican if you wanted to do a veto override. But I mean, not much vetoing going on, I don't think, in this trifecta, probably. Anyway, now, some in his party view Youngkin as a pariah who should not have meddled in this year's GOP primary, during which he tipped the scales in favor of his lieutenant governor, Winsome Earl Sears, to be his heir. That's probably a good point. And by the way, why would he do that? Aside from the traditional, well, she's my lieutenant governor, so she's next in line kind of thing, she's also probably not going to win and probably not a threat to me or a rival for me trying to climb out of this one-term thing into another office. She's not going to be a serious challenger for Senate against me if I try to move that way, and she's busy running the state. Even if she wins, she's busy running the state while I attempt to run for president. I don't know. She's kind of a non-entity. and it was a safe idea to do that, but also tradition sort of dictated it. A longtime conservative Virginia operative said the decision to personally select the nominees and clear out the primary sealed Youngkin's fate. Really? I think getting his ass handed to him at the ballot box, or handed to his party, is what did it. I don't know. And I don't think people didn't come out because he handpicked Winsome Earl Sears necessarily. But all right, that's what they want to say. That's their excuse. Matthew Hurt, with 2 T's, chairman of the Arlington GOP, told the Daily Mail that Youngkin was responsible for the waterfall of losses up and down the ticket in 2025, following an unnecessary battle with the lawmakers over a taxpayer-funded stadium in Northern Virginia. Totally different subject. In the minds of other Virginia conservatives, however, Youngkin will maintain a positive legacy. Tim Parrish, the Virginia State Director of the free market advocacy group Americans for Prosperity, told the Daily Mail Wednesday that Youngkin's legacy can be wrapped up in one word: stability. I guess so. Boring, I think, is another word for stability that can wrap him up there too. Is Tim Parrish of the Northern Virginia appears to be run entirely by car dealers. You all know Don Beyer and he was previously lieutenant governor of Virginia too. Now a congressman, but the owner of one of the larger car dealership networks, essentially, of Northern Virginia. I think mostly started in Volvos. But anyway, the point is Don Beyer owns a bunch of car dealerships. And I think there's a Parrish dealership too, and it might even be Tim Parrish. Anyway, neither here nor there, except for the fact that I did mention the other day that the anecdotal evidence of the damage that the continued government shutdown was doing was that it was hurting who? More than anybody else that I had heard about, because I hadn't heard any other anecdotes. It was car dealers, actually. Just going to point that out. All right. Let's see. The Daily Mail thing continues after a bunch of photos. They're very photo heavy. For Parrish, that stability came in the form of leadership in the post-COVID era, as well as major policy wins on education, which was a key platform on which Youngkin ran and won in 2021. It wasn't so much that he was running on education as his platform. It was, I hate teachers and there's something wrong with the bathrooms. That was the big education plan. That didn't really help us. The outgoing governor's leadership on issues such as economic investment and job creation was also appreciated by Carrie Sheffield, a senior policy analyst at the independent Women's Voice, who told the Daily Mail that the incoming Spanberger administration will embrace policies that spark inflation and reduce employment. Way to support the women there. Okay, there you go. In terms of how independent women's voices sound, they sound like this. I love Republicans and hate Democrats. I'd rather have a Republican man than a Democratic woman because I'm an independent woman with this voice. Whatever. One of the last bastions of independence as embarrassed Republicans, I guess. As far as Youngkin's political future is concerned, Parrish says that it's still currently bright. What do you know? But that it would be squandered by joining the Trump administration. That's certainly true. I think he should run for U.S. Senate in 2026 and continue to be that champion for Virginians while also appealing to the American people on the national stage, Parrish concluded. Well, that would pit him against Mark Warner, who also, by the way, was governor of Virginia. And what's the direction out of the governorship? The Senate, not the presidency. The White House did not respond to a request for comment when asked by the Daily Mail about Youngkin's legacy, political future, or whether he would be considered for a role in the administration. And the answer was who? Anyway, asked about his political future at a press conference on Wednesday, the governor deflected, noting something, and that he will work with Governor-elect Abigail Spanberger to ensure a smooth transition. That's the first thing on my mind right now. And he doesn't have to be partisan about it and not help her. He wasn't defeated as a sitting incumbent. He would have been, but his term was limited. So Hurt, however, shared a more direct perspective with the Daily Mail about the governor's political future, noting that it would be hard for Governor Youngkin to make the case that voters should promote him to any other office, statewide or nationally, and a national run wouldn't be in the cards without early support from Virginians. Steve Bannon, you know who he is, eviscerated Youngkin for pushing a never-Trumper candidate. Believe it or not, Winston Earl Sears, I guess, actually had that on her record. Back in August, numerous longtime Republican players in Virginia privately told the Daily Mail they had serious doubts about Earl Sears' ability to emerge victorious in November. One GOP operative told the Daily Mail under the condition of anonymity at the time that this is 100% Glenn Youngkin's fault for clearing the field by endorsing her right after the 2024 election. The operative also noted that there were real conversations about potential primary challenges to Sears, which the governor worked to keep at bay. Following Sears' loss, former Trump 2024 campaign manager Chris LaCivita noted on X that a bad candidate and a bad campaign have consequences. The Virginia governor's race is example number one. And I'm pleased that it did come out that way because I live here in Virginia. And example number one means I don't have to live with another idiot Republican governor for the next 4 years. Okay, just wanted to put that on the record. One of many things. Let's see. I'm probably not at this point going to read the New York Times exposition on the emails that Democrats are releasing. I'm just going to let them sort of continue to let them drop those shoes one at a time. The emails are, they are what they are. If you didn't know, Trump was a slimeball and more than intimately wrapped up in Jeffrey Epstein's world. I can't believe you're listening to the show. So I think we got it covered at this point, and we'll just wait for more of them and for more analysis of them. I would like for maybe Marcy has some information for us about what does Epstein mean by all these weirdly coded words that he's using. Let's see. Oh, yeah, I guess I should also mention something we missed yesterday that was a big deal. I mean, I saw it and I just didn't get a chance to read about it because I wanted to read to you about Laura Loomer instead. And I still want to go back to that, but I probably won't because I'll probably end up again not finishing the article. But big deal. Part of the language of the, I guess we'll call it the CR. I mean, it is at least in part a continuing resolution that is reopening the government. And just for the record here, 3 of the normal appropriations bills, they don't correspond directly to departments, but, in some ways they cover it. So agriculture bill and I know the legislative branch appropriations, and I think also the VA. 3 that are traditionally less controversial or at least easier to pass. The legislative branch one is sometimes a little bit more political, but because it funds Congress, they tend to say, yeah, we're definitely for that. But the legislative branch appropriations, agriculture, and whatever else surrounds it, I forget what else is in their bill. I mean, it matters, so I should be looking at it. Appropriations subcommittees will give us the answer and the title of the bills. There are, the 12 subcommittees. Where's the agriculture one? What else is in their bill is basically what I'm asking here. So the legislative branch is all by itself, legislative branch. Right. Then there's the military construction, veterans affairs, and related agencies bill. That too went through in its entirety. Where is, how come I found the agriculture, thing so boring. I skipped right past it. Agriculture, it's the first one, of course. It's alphabetical. Agriculture, rural development, food and drug administration, and related agencies. So those are the subcommittees that had completed their work enough such that in the package passed in the Senate, they just said, here's the full year's appropriations for that. We're settled on that one. Everybody has agreed on it. So no matter what happens in January, when the next government shutdown is triggered by the deadline in this new CR, after January, agriculture, the FDA and other related agencies, plus the VA, military construction budget and legislative branch will all continue on for the rest of the year. If there's another government shutdown, it will be a partial government shutdown minus the USDA, the FDA, the VA, et cetera, and of course Congress. So that's how that will work. The rest of it will be operating on a CR through January. And then in addition, they added a bunch of other stuff that you're not supposed to add because you're not supposed to legislate in an appropriations bill, but somehow they did it anyway. That includes this controversial measure, and I think you probably guessed at this point that I was getting around to this. I have a, New York Times article on it, I think, and also a, what do you call it? Talking Points memo piece. And why don't I just do that one? Because I think you know the story already. So we'll be looking for the commentary from, is it David Kurtz over at Talking Points memo? It is. Shutdown deal lets GOP senators personally sue over Jack Smith probe. Yes. And we'll just get right to it. You know the story, I think, by now. $500K for election subversion is the first section of Kurtz's piece here. Tucked into a spending bill that is part of the deal to end the government shutdown is a provision that would allow GOP senators to personally sue the federal government for as much as $500,000 over special counsel Jack Smith's lawful search of their phone records, according to the New York Times. As part of his January 6th investigation, Smith properly subpoenaed the toll records of some GOP members of Congress because, of course, they were suspected of being in on the conspiracy to overthrow the government and reverse the election results. In recent weeks, Republicans on the Hill have resurfaced this fact, they already knew it, of course, and morphed it into a deep state conspiracy theory, exaggerating what Smith obtained and trying to turn it into a constitutional clash. Judge James Boasberg, you know him, of D.C., approved measures that barred phone providers from notifying lawmakers that their data from around January 6th was requested as a part of the investigation. Politico notes, the provision in the bill imposes new restrictions that would require senators to receive notice of their records being sought and bars judges from preventing that notice unless the senator is under criminal investigation. Now, of course, those guys were kind of under criminal investigation, but they weren't yet the targets of their own independent criminal investigations. So there's that. But still, you might be wondering, so the bill would require that senators receive notice when their records are being sought. How does that lead us to, the lawsuit? Well, they didn't get notice. Yeah, but there wasn't the law in place at the time that required that they get notice. Oh, but we're making it retroactive to the time when those records were in fact requested. By the way, if the shoe were on the other foot for even just a moment and Democrats were the ones being, I should say, if Republicans were the ones on the other side of this equation and Democrats were reaching back and saying, if Democrats had been investigated and Democrats had said, we're going to pass a law that retroactively says that we're allowed to sue, even though this law didn't exist back then, Republicans would be screaming, this is an ex post facto law. You're changing the law after the fact in a way that creates a legal right that didn't exist then. And, I thought that was unconstitutional. Well, you'd be wrong about that, at least on technical grounds. The way the ex post facto laws that we prohibit constitutionally are criminal laws. If you are you can't retroactively change the law and punish people criminally for acts that were not criminal at the time that they did them. And this would be a civil action for damages, not a criminal action and not a criminal claim against Jack Smith or the government or any other entity. So it doesn't count that way, but that would not stop Republicans from insisting, you can't do this, it's ex post facto. But Democrats won't because they actually have read the law. And by the way, they don't have the Supreme Court on their side to say, by the way, we're reversing that old assumption too, and now ex post facto includes civil liability as well. Anyway, since that's not happening, we can skip over that point. More controversially, the provision in the bill retroactively allows senators targeted by Smith to sue the federal government, the New York Times reports. Because the provision is retroactive to 2022, it would appear to make eligible the 8 lawmakers whose phone records were subpoenaed by investigators for Mr. Smith as he examined efforts by Donald J. Trump to obstruct the results of the 2020 presidential election. The Republican senators in question are Lindsey Graham, Marsha Blackburn, Bill Haggerty, Josh Hawley, the fist pump guy, Dan Sullivan, if you've forgotten him, he's from Alaska, Tommy Tuberville, Ron Johnson, and Cynthia Loomis. And if you've forgotten her, Wisconsin. Is that right? Wait a minute. No, that isn't right. It should be Wyoming, isn't it? Cynthia Loomis is from Wyoming. It says Wisconsin, though. Now you got me doubting myself, and I have to double check. Yeah. Why? Well, what can I tell you? I don't know why they did that. But Wyoming. So typo. Is I next to us? There's a U in between I and, anyway. Never mind. They got that one wrong. It's just a typo, and she's from Wyoming. She hasn't moved over to Wisconsin. I don't think Wisconsin would elect Cynthia Loomis. Anyway, the language in the bill came directly from Senate Majority Leader John Thune, who, if you've forgotten about him, is from South Dakota. Politico reports. Next section here is under the heading, January 6th pardons are Trump's bat signal. This is, I think, a different entry. This is just sort of a roundup of stories, but because it's related, let's read this one and see if it leads us to any other interesting news. A good piece by Politico's legal reporting duo is on the implications of President Trump's latest pardons in the 2020 big lie scheme. 1, it is a precursor for election denialism in the future. This is, I think, in reference to the 75 or so names connected with the fake electors, the forged electoral college certificates that came out the other day. They view it as a precursor for election denialism in the future. The mass pardon, the first in history to cover people accused of criminality conspiring with the president who issued it, by the way, comes and that's only if you don't count the January 6th, the 1,500 rioter pardons, I guess, unless they are including all of that. Anyway, comes as Trump continues to stoke false claims about rampant cheating by Democrats and sow doubts about the integrity of future elections. And his opponents see the pardon as a permission slip for similar efforts in 2026 and 2028. They won't be able to do any fake electoral college certificates in 2026, but they could storm the Capitol. So maybe they really are talking about both the 1,500 January 6th rioters who were pardoned earlier on in the administration and the co-conspirators in the forged electoral college certificates scheme pardoned just the other day. The second is that it's an extremely broad pardon, and they say this: the language in the pardon also underscores that Trump's clemency is not limited to people named in the document. So who's pardoned here? We don't even really know. Rather, it applies to anyone who helped devise or advocate for Trump's strategy to use fraudulent slates of presidential electors as a prong of his strategy to remain in power, as well as others who work to, quote, expose voting fraud and vulnerabilities, got to say it in his voice, in the 2020 election. All right. They then go on, by the way, to talk about the corruption. Pardon Palooza edition, adding the controversial and probably ill-advised pardons for former Tennessee House Speaker Glenn Casada, who we spoke about the other day, and Cade Cawthon. And without making a public announcement, there's also a pardon for Robert Harshbarger Jr., the husband of U.S. Representative Diana Harshbarger of Tennessee, who pleaded guilty to health care fraud in 2013, the New York Times reports, as they pardon all the health care fraud on the Republican side. And right at the time when they're about to revamp healthcare for you. Isn't that great? So people whose husbands have been convicted of healthcare fraud will have a hand in redesigning 1/5 of the economy. And on the Senate side, of course, without a pardon, but still, guilty of the same, is Rick Scott, who also guilty of massive healthcare fraud, will have a hand in redesigning your healthcare system. All right. So what can I tell you? There's a lot. And they move on to a couple other subjects here. But I think at this point, we'll jump out of the talking points memo thing. I thought it was a longer exposition on the issue, which now makes me wish that I had read you the New York Times article instead. But I think you, in all likelihood, it's a couple days old now. You've probably read it. But where is this all going? I think the new news that I have to at least tease before we leave for the first break does come from the New York Times. I got to give you this headline, and we have about a minute to do it. Trump loyalists push grand conspiracy, in quotes of its own, as new subpoenas land. What has happened here? The Justice Department moved an inquiry that appeared initially focused on the former CIA director, John O. Brennan, moved it to South Florida somehow, and is beginning to recruit line prosecutors. In other words, they really are moving forward with, in most cases, probably extremely weak cases at this point anyway, but really trying to put the whole of the DOJ's power behind making something happen in putting some or all of Trump's identified enemies in jail if they can. Glenn Thrush, Alan Feuer, and Charlie Savage get together on this one. That's I think an unusual lineup, but I don't know. That's not usually Charlie Savage is often partnered with Glenn Thrush, usually doing his own thing. But throw them together for this one. Should be interesting. I will give you the details of that after a 2-minute break, which starts now. Hi, everybody. It's me, David Waldman. Yes, the same guy who interrupts you all the time. Interrupting you one more time just to tell you again, another reminder that your contributions are what keep this show on the air, and Patreon.com, Patreon.com, is still among the easiest ways to make the sustaining subscription donations that keep us afloat. Are you ready for the pep talk about how our Patreon campaign is still going strong and growing? Well, too bad. Yeah, the plain fact is we actually are headed in the wrong direction, and whereas we once had about 175 monthly patrons, we're now actually down below 150. Time to recruit some more. Not exactly the kind of news I wanted to share, but there it is. For those of you in a position to support the show, Patreon.com does make it easy to make those secure, recurring monthly contributions to do so. Patreon.com/KagroX gets you straight to our donation page. We've been through a lot together. The worst of the pandemic, we hope. The worst of the insurrection, we hope. So go ahead and treat yourself. You don't need an excuse. Give yourself the gift of a little something you enjoy in life. Support the show. And of course, if you happen to prefer using PayPal or even the Square Cash app, we're up and running on those options too. So thanks again, everyone, for all your support. We couldn't, or at least shouldn't, do it without you. Hope you'll be on board soon too. Thanks for all your support. All right, welcome back now to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. I got to continue down this path here with the New York Times article. We haven't even started. All we read is the title, Trump loyalists push grand conspiracy as new subpoenas land. Related, I have an email sent to me a little while ago from Scott, leading me to a raw story roundup with a different angle in the headline. As you know, that's always I think the chief benefit of stories from or the coverage from Raw Story, even if they are covering the coverage. That's an important thing to do, and really boiling it down to its essence. Although sometimes they go in a direction that I don't necessarily endorse every time, but they're aggressive. I'll give them that, and very often they do put a finer point on things than the New York Times will allow themselves to do. All right, so here's the story, and this is this isn't a story about Laura Loomer, but this is why I wanted to start with the Laura Loomer story the other day and why I still believe it deserves attention. This is like Loomer territory. Essentially, she's not involved in this prosecution, but a lot of the things she's doing has been about driving the Trump administration to doing things like this. It's kind of scary. Far-right influencers have been hinting in recent weeks that they have finally found a venue, Miami, and a federal prosecutor, one Jason A. Redding, is it? It was one D, R-E-D-I-N-G, Redding, maybe, Jason Quinones, to pursue long-promised charges of a, quote, grand conspiracy, unquote, against President Trump's adversaries. Their theory of the case, still unsupported by the evidence, by the way. One of the problems with proceeding this way with the DOJ, ordinarily they say we don't start a case until we have the evidence. And that's been like the big problem with Lindsay Halligan's cases. As a matter of fact, the judges are calling that out straight up, saying, yeah, you can't just charge him and start the case and then be like, I'll try and find some evidence before trial, Your Honor. Anyway, the theory of the case, still unsupported by the evidence, is this: a cabal of Democrats and, quote, deep state, unquote, operatives, possibly led by former President Barack Obama, sure, has worked to destroy Mr. Trump in a years-long plot spanning the inquiry into his 2016 campaign to the charges he faced after leaving office. And it's really what's happening here, of course, is that's their version of, well, he was a suspicious character in 2016 for very good reason. Then he got elected president and everybody saw what some of those great reasons were. Then he lost and he was out of power. But then he ran again. And so everybody said, oh, yeah, remember, he's the guy who was actually an international super spy scumbag. We shouldn't elect him. But we did elect him. So now he has the chance to prosecute this. But that's the years-long conspiracy. Under President Barack Obama, because he was responsible for running the intelligence community while Trump was conspiring to steal the election with the help of the Russians. And the government eventually did come around and say, we think that's actually happening. And you haven't changed our minds at any point between 2016 and 2020. Nor have you changed our minds from 2020 to 2024, nor did you change our minds about what happened in 2016 in 2024. That's the conspiracy. We think you were wrong about that and you should never have done it. And we actually think you did do it. And you've done nothing to change our minds about it. And you've, in fact, made things worse. That's not really a years-long conspiracy. That's one belief about Donald Trump that has survived because there's enormous amounts of evidence to indicate that it's true and none to dispute it. So, anyway, but that narrative, which has been promoted in general terms by Mr. Trump and taken root online, has emerged in a nascent but widening federal investigation. Last week, Mr. Redding Quiñones, the Trump-appointed U.S. attorney for the Southern District of Florida, issued more than 24 subpoenas, including to officials who took part in the inquiry into ties between Russia and Mr. Trump's 2016 presidential campaign, according to people with direct knowledge of the matter. And by the way, I'm going to look up Redding Quiñones in Wikipedia just to get some sense of whether or not he is a Senate-confirmed U.S. attorney, and I don't think he would have had trouble getting him confirmed as U.S. attorney for Southern Florida, or if he is an acting U.S. attorney in that. Let's see. What does Wikipedia have to say? Redding Quiñones, who's a beardo, in case you were wondering, keeping tabs on who is and isn't beardos in this administration, is an American lawyer serving as United States Attorney to the Southern District of Florida, so that seems like it's all square. March 10th, he was nominated, confirmed by the U.S. Senate August 2nd, sworn into office August 13th. So over the summer and then during the shutdown, while eyes were elsewhere, is when he ramped up and offered himself up to Trump as the guy who will be willing to take on this insane case and try to make nothing into something for you. It's a way up the ladder. Anyway, where were we? Among them, who were we among here? Well, it was last week, Redding Quiñones issued more than 24 subpoenas, including to officials who took part in the inquiry into ties between Trump and Russia in 2016. If you investigated Trump, you're now being investigated. We're investigating the investigators. Now, who will investigate the investigators of the investigators? That remains to be seen. So that all happened according to people with direct knowledge of the matter, and it is among them, it is said, or among the people who were subpoenaed is what's really happening. Sorry. Were James R. Clapper Jr., the former director of national intelligence, Peter Strzok, the former FBI and counterintelligence agent who helped run the Russia investigation, and Lisa Page, a former lawyer at the Bureau. And of course, Peter Strzok and Lisa Page are the ones that Trump can't stop harping about. He loves talking about them. The investigation in Florida appears to focus for now on a January 2017 intelligence community assessment about Russian interference in the 2016 election, particularly the role played by John O. Brennan, the former CIA director, in drafting the document. And I think they do get around to answering, in a way, the question that now arises for me, which is, I don't understand how this got to Florida. All right, well, you'll find out later. And I think it looks to me like the article that Scott sent has another theory about that, and it's a good one. It is not clear whether Mr. Brennan has received a similar request to turn over records to investigators, but over the past 2 months, the investigation into his actions has widened to encompass other actions in a broader time frame, according to officials with knowledge of the situation. Mr. Redding Quinones did not return a request for comment. Brennan's lawyer had no comment either. The investigation started earlier this year after criminal referrals to the Justice Department by top Trump intelligence officials. So, Tulsi Gabbards of the world, essentially, and Kash Patels of the world. I can't believe that they had their arms twisted into making criminal referrals to the DOJ against their predecessors, but they did. It was assigned to David Metcalf, the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Pennsylvania, who was given special authority to scrutinize and possibly prosecute Mr. Brennan, according to 4 people with knowledge of his actions who requested anonymity to discuss an open matter. Why Pennsylvania? Not sure, but maybe it had something to do with why they picked John Durham. He was based in Connecticut, but they thought they would get what they wanted out of him. Or maybe, I don't know, does Brennan live in Pennsylvania? No idea. Mr. Metcalf, a veteran prosecutor who held senior Justice Department positions during the first Trump administration, was given a relatively narrow mandate in his authorization, limited to examining Mr. Brennan's work on the intelligence assessment in 2017. He struggled to advance a case that was regarded as weak by current and former department officials. It is not clear if Mr. Metcalf believed a prosecution of Mr. Brennan was viable, but he never got the chance to complete his work. This fall, senior Justice Department officials transferred the investigation from Mr. Metcalf in Pennsylvania to Mr. Redding Quinones in Florida for some strange reason, as part of a decision to greatly expand the scope of the Brennan investigation into other unspecified activities, according to 2 people with knowledge of the situation. And the neighborhood dogs disagree with the idea entirely. That kind of internal maneuvering, once highly unusual, has become commonplace under Mr. Trump, who has personally and publicly directed top department officials, not something presidents normally admit to doing, to go after people he reviles, often over the objections of experienced investigators who have found insufficient evidence to proceed. And, of course, in the face of previous Republican objections to things like, oh, my God, former President Clinton met with the Attorney General, the sitting Attorney General, on the tarmac of an airport. Outrageous. How could they even be in the same room? That's what a gigantic conflict of interest. What a violation of the independence of the Department of Justice. Except, we'd like to actually do that 10 times over. In September, Mr. Trump installed an inexperienced White House lawyer, and she's only barely a White House lawyer, Lindsay Halligan, to bring charges against James B. Comey, the former FBI director, in Alexandria, Virginia, for lying to and obstructing Congress after her Trump-appointed predecessor had refused to do so. Last week, the federal magistrate judge handling the case accused prosecutors of trying, quote, to indict first, investigate second, unquote. Yeah, that's what we were talking about earlier. The Florida subpoenas seek documents or communications related to the intelligence community assessment from July 1st, 2016 through February 28th, 2017, according to people familiar with them. It commands the recipients of these subpoenas to provide those documents to prosecutors in Miami by November 20th. So another week or so, a week plus on that. Some of the people who have reviewed the subpoenas said they did not mention specific crimes being investigated. Most federal crimes have a 5-year statute of limitations, by the way, and offenses must be charged in a venue where the conduct occurred. It is not clear how the preparations of the intelligence assessment, which took place in and around Washington, would be connected to Florida, apart from Mr. Trump's residence there. But maybe they're after something else. It wouldn't hold up. I mean, they could be after it. Ordinarily, it wouldn't hold up. But if you can make judges just decide, that's going to be okay, and it doesn't matter whether it complies with the rules or not, we're just saying go ahead with it, as I assume Trump believes he can get out of the only court that matters to him, the Supreme Court, just go ahead and do it. Whether the subpoenas will lead to charges, much less to convictions, is impossible to know, but merely creating an aura of criminality around Trump foes by celebrating incremental prosecutorial moves is a trophy in itself to diehard Trump supporters who have said that naming and shaming targets is a legitimate aim of law enforcement. It is, of course, against actual DOJ policy, but they're going to just ignore all of that. What it is the creation of online content for influencers who can point to these things and say, ooh, justice is coming. Things like that. I hadn't realized that the very next paragraph begins with, quote, justice is coming, unquote. Mike Davis, an influential former Republican Senate staff aide who has prodded the Justice Department to use Florida as an arena for anti-Trump conspiracy cases, wrote on social media on Friday. His message was accompanied by a photo of himself with a smiling Mr. Redding Quinones. So again, my mind was racing elsewhere, just to remind you of what that just said. Mike Davis, his mission as an influencer has been to prod DOJ to use Florida as an arena for anti-Trump conspiracy cases. Why might that be? And I think now I can't hold back any further. The headline of the Raw Story article that Scott sent me, red flags fly as Trump's revenge cases funneled to Eileen Cannon. How unusual. Well, there's going to be some jurisdiction questions for the courts before things go forward. But then the question becomes, will the Supreme Court say, jurisdiction, standing? We don't know what those things are. Go ahead. Prosecute away. Anyway, in the meantime, the influencers get to say, justice is coming. Mr. Redding Quinones, a military veteran, has pursued his mandate to hunt down Trump's foes with a gung-ho attitude that has endeared him to the president and the small but influential cadre of loyalists pushing hardest for prosecutions. I'm just kind of curious about his military service. Like people point to that all the time. And just when it's just glossed over like, well, military service, okay. I mean, usually if you're a Navy SEAL, they say that instead versus military service. Like J.D. Vance, military service, it was there. Redding Quinones is a veteran of the U.S. military, having served in the U.S. Army and the U.S. Air Force. So that's interesting too, to have moved between the branches that way is often indicative of an interesting career. His military roles included cavalry scout, infantry officer, so regular guy, logistics officer, and judge advocate. Redding Quinones is a reserve lieutenant colonel. So I don't know. I mean, ordinarily, you got a chance to edit your own Wikipedia entry. Usually, if you've got combat experience, they'll usually say so. And by the way, often with Republicans, if they don't have combat experience, they will say so anyway. They'll, not that they don't, but that they did. And then they'll backpedal and say, oh, no, I meant I was near somebody with combat experience. Anyway, I don't know what his experience has been. I was just kind of curious about that since they just made mention of it. Back to the article. Right-wing activists believe he has broad jurisdiction. They believe that. They believe he has broad jurisdiction to bring a wide array of charges involving investigations into Mr. Trump because, per Valago, they use the other name for it, the president's private sex dungeon club and residence in Palm Beach, Florida, is in his district. I will say this, that is not how this works, but okay, sure. Asked for comment, Chad Gilmartin, a Justice Department spokesman, praised the work of Mr. Redding Quinones and Mr. Metcalf. While we do not confirm or comment on the existence of specific investigations, except this one, The American people should know that this department will continue to follow the facts and pursue justice in every case, he said in the statement, although that was not true. People familiar with the nascent inquiry say there have been signs in recent days that it is ramping up. The Justice Department, for example, has begun to recruit line prosecutors in Florida to work on the case, according to a person with direct knowledge of the matter. Mr. Redden Quinones has also moved his office's National Security Unit out of its traditional home inside the criminal division, the person said. Prosecutors in the office read that move as an effort to create a standalone section that could potentially house the prosecutors assigned to the new investigation. The 2017 intelligence assessment said that President Vladimir V. Putin of Russia and America had ordered a multifaceted information operation targeting the U.S. presidential election. That included hacking Democratic emails and releasing them, as well as seeding social media with messages promoting Mr. Trump and denigrating his rival, Hillary Clinton. This is an odd way to transition here, but Mr. Trump and his allies have long chafed at a judgment in the assessment which stated that Mr. Putin aspired to improve Mr. Trump's chances of winning, not just sow chaos and undermine Mrs. Clinton. I guess he wants to preserve the glory of victory for himself. Efforts to bring charges against Mr. Brennan or others involved in the Russia inquiry are almost certain to run into serious hurdles. Two previous investigations, one by the Justice Department's Inspector General and the other by the Special Counsel John H. Durham, remember him, Connecticut, have already scrutinized the actions of law enforcement and intelligence officials and found no evidence to support charges against high-level officials like Mr. Brennan. The statute of limitations would also likely be an issue. The intelligence assessment occurred nearly 9 years ago. And remember, statute of limitations often 5 years. The Russia inquiry ended in 2019 when the special counsel, Robert S. Mueller III, issued a report. Still, influencers like Mr. Davis have floated theories, and why not, about how federal prosecutors could extend the statute of limitations. They have claimed, without providing any evidence, that the August 2022 search of Pervalago, during which the FBI found reams of highly sensitive classified documents, was somehow connected to the Russia investigation. Highly doubtful. I mean, except insofar as this is an ongoing conspiracy to try to frame Donald Trump for breaking some kind of laws. And if they couldn't get him on the Russia thing, with what evidence they had, they were searching Mar-a-Lago looking for more evidence of the Russia hoax. But they weren't. They were there for the documents which had been illegally removed from White House custody. Anyway, if that seemingly far-fetched notion were somehow proven true, it could push the statute of limitations until at least 2027. They just would have to come up with more theory than that. And then, of course, evidence. In their efforts to connect the Mar-a-Lago search to the Russia inquiry and other investigations into Mr. Trump, Trump-aligned influencers and right-wing media figures have seized on an internal FBI memo made public last week in the case of Mr. Comey. And I don't quite get it, but the document dated from July, which presumably means July 2025. I mean, otherwise, wouldn't you have to put the year in it? But it doesn't make any sense. The document dated from July recorded the opening of an investigation into the discovery of Trump-related records 3 months earlier inside room 9582 at the Bureau's Washington headquarters, a space designed for the storage of highly sensitive materials. The records, found in so-called burn bags and presumably intended for destruction, the memo said, included printouts of investigative records and at least one page of handwritten notes, including materials related to the Russia inquiry, Mr. Durham's investigation, and the Mar-a-Lago search. And that's actually the end of the article. And it's very confusing. But I mean, I guess it's very confusing because the theory that it's trying to advance is convoluted and stupid. And this is the only evidence they've got. And if I've read it correctly, they're saying that the search of Mar-a-Lago in 2022 was related to the Russia inquiry because they recently found documents that were slated for destruction that included investigative Well, they found in a burn bag a bunch of things that were supposed to be destroyed, some of which had to do with Russia and that investigation, and some of which had to do with some other stuff, apparently. And they found a memo in there that was dated recently, but it doesn't say that the memo is about in any way connecting to the Russia investigation, except insofar as it exists and might have said the word Russia in it. We just don't, it doesn't make any real sense. I think this is supposed to illustrate the tenuousness of the case. To make things worse, we'll add raw story to the mix. No, that's not what I mean. I mean, to make the matters worse, we have to take a look at the angle. Oh, this is again interesting that raw story is taken on this thing. Red flags fly as Trump's revenge cases funneled to Eileen Cannon. Like there's no mention of Eileen Cannon at all in the Times article here, and that would be a good point, moving this thing to South Florida. Nicole Sharkey Chami, am I pronouncing your last name correctly? Charky-Chami. Sorry, Nicole, if I've messed it up, but here's the deal. The Department of Justice is setting up President Donald Trump appointed U.S. District Judge Eileen Cannon to hear Trump revenge cases, according to a former U.S. attorney. Well, of course, they were eventually going to send it to her. She's the only person that entertains these things as real. The Southern District of Florida U.S. Attorney's Office is reportedly ramping up the revenge prosecutions in a mass investigation and targeting Trump enemies, even eyeing cases against former President Barack Obama and former CIA Director John Brennan, MSNBC reported Tuesday. What happened to presidential immunity always and forever? Oh, well, we didn't mean for you, black guy. That's the way they're thinking of it. The move has prompted several resignations, including 2 prosecutors who stepped down from their jobs following an impromptu meeting on Monday when they were ordered to take part in a vast, quote, conspiracy, unquote, investigation into former intelligence and law enforcement officials. At least one of them was asked to do something that was outside of their realm of comfortability. I don't know if that's a realm, but okay. And they believed would violate their ethical responsibilities, MSNBC senior White House reporter Vaughn Hilliard reported. More than 30 subpoenas were issued on Friday by the DOJ, which reportedly, quote, bypassed what multiple legal experts told MSNBC is standard protocol for its issuance of subpoenas, turning to a member of leadership to sign off on some of them instead of a line prosecutor assigned to investigate the case. But there's another uncommon move. Typically, you would expect the line prosecutors are handling the case to be the people who would sign the subpoenas. Legal analyst and former U.S. Attorney Barbara McQuaid told MSNBC. It sounds, though, like this is some sort of special project that they're putting together, some sort of special unit. Executive U.S. attorneys sometimes have in their portfolio special projects. So it sounds to me like this executive U.S. attorney is going to be leading whatever this effort is into this conspiracy investigation. But I do think it's noteworthy that this is not being handled the way a routine case would be handled for a violation of the law. Instead, it is being handled as a special case with high-level executive members of the team handling this, she added. That's a lot of words for the same thing. The location of the case is also raising questions and concerns. The other thing that I thought was noteworthy about the reporting is that the grand jury is to be impaneled is going to be in Fort Pierce, Florida. And that, of course, is the district the portion of the district of the Southern District of Florida that has one and only one federal judge. And that judge is Eileen Cannon. I don't know that we should be suspicious of everything Judge Eileen Cannon does. I know you should. It's silly to say you shouldn't or that you don't know that. But, you know, she's trying to be cautious. But we do know that her track record in the Mar-a-Lago case with the documents was the first to impose some really extraordinary hoops for the prosecutors to go through at the time of the search, McQuaid said. And then, of course, the dismissal of the case, finding the special counsel regulations to be unconstitutional, contrary to every other court that's looked at it. So I think there's some reason to be concerned about the irregularities that are occurring in this office, she said, and I do too. So thanks to Scott for pointing us to this one. It's important that you hear about it and you know that it's coming. I mean, you probably have seen some of the reporting, but if you just read the New York Times article, you would never have known for whatever reason, unless you had a memory of your own, that all of this stuff was happening, because it was all happening in the Southern District of Florida, it made it possible to funnel it all through a lean cannon, which is insane. And just, I mean, such an obvious ploy, but that's not going to stop the Trump administration from doing it. They actually think people will think it's awesome. I don't know. Anyway, time for us to make our exit at this point. I just want to note also for the record, just to try and keep up with this news, there's nothing new in the sense that, the world is going to care very much. Although, I don't know, maybe that's changing too. The U.S. military, the New York Times reports, kills 6 in strikes on suspected drug boats, Hegseth says. So 2 more boats hit, this time in the Pacific, I think. Now, death toll in the campaign rising to 76 people across 19 attacks in the Pacific and Caribbean since early September. And gosh, I mean, I don't know. How much more do you want to know? Well, there's lots. How much more do we have time for? That's a different story. The answer is none of it. However, I do want to try and shoehorn this in if I can find the headline for it. There it is. CNN reporting exclusively, as it turns out, just the other day, and now everybody else is on the story. The UK, you remember them, not the University of Kentucky, but the United Kingdom, suspends some intelligence sharing with the U.S. through that whole Five Eyes program over the boat strike concerns in a major break. That is true. That's a good point. It is a major break. The UK is no longer sharing intelligence with the U.S. about suspected drug trafficking vessels in the Caribbean because it does not want to be complicit in the U.S. military strikes and believes the attacks are illegal. Sources familiar with the matter told CNN. That's actually extremely important and, just super dangerous for the alliances, which, of course, the Trump administration values not at all. All right, time to hand things over to Justice Putnam for the West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy here on Netroots Radio. Here's what he's got on tap for the beginning of the show. Trump actually put in writing that 65% of Americans are, quote, fools.
From netrootsradio.com.
Not just April Fools. Let's find out why.
Listening to Kagro in the morning with David Waldman.
There's more on tap, of course. All 27 far-right Trump judge picks made dishonest and misleading answers to the Senate and evading direct questions about whether Trump lost the 2020 election and whether the U.S. Capitol was attacked by pro-Trump violent mob on January 6th. That sounds rather scary, in addition to what Eileen Cannon will do.